We begin not in a Silicon Valley garage, but in the quiet hum of a 1970s computer lab. Imagine a machine, not with a screen, but a plotter, a robotic arm meticulously drawing lines on a sheet of paper. This was Aaron, the creation of artist and programmer Harold Cohen. For decades, Cohen fed Aaron rules about composition, color, and form. The result? Artworks that were undeniably original, yet born from a non-human consciousness. This wasn't just code. It was the first whisper of a creative ghost in the machine, a primitive ancestor to the artistic explosion we're living through today. The journey from Aaron's simple, rule-based world to the photorealistic fantasies of modern AI is one of the most staggering technological leaps in human history. It's a story about moving from teaching a machine to draw a line to giving it a library of all the lines ever drawn and asking it to dream up its own. The early days of computer art were defined by logic and mathematics. Artists like Vera Molnar used computers to explore geometric abstraction, creating precise, algorithmically generated patterns that would be impossible for a human hand to replicate with such perfection. They were pioneers, using computation as a new kind of paintbrush, one that operated on rules, not intuition. But their work was fundamentally a direct translation of their own instructions. The computer was a hyper-advanced, obedient tool. It had no memory of art history, no concept of a cat or a starry night. It only knew the explicit commands it was given. For decades, this was the paradigm: human as architect, computer as builder. But deep in the research labs, a new idea was taking root, an idea that would flip this relationship on its head. The revolution wasn't about better instructions, it was about creating a machine that could learn for itself. The seismic shift came with the advent of machine learning, and specifically, a revolutionary concept called a generative adversarial network, or GAN. Imagine two AIs locked in an eternal battle of creation and critique. One AI, the generator, is like an art forger. Its job is to create images, say a portrait of a person, that look real. The second AI, the discriminator, is the expert art critic. Its job is to look at images, both real ones from a training dataset and the forgeries from the generator, and decide which is which. In the beginning, the forger is terrible. Its portraits are monstrous, distorted messes, and the critic easily calls them out as fake. But with every failure, the forger learns. It analyzes why it was caught and refines its technique. The critic, in turn, gets better at spotting even the most subtle flaws. This digital duel, happening millions of times per second, forces the generator to evolve at an exponential rate, until eventually it can create portraits so convincing they are indistinguishable from a real photograph. This was the birth of AI that didn't just follow rules, but developed its own understanding, a visual intuition built from analyzing millions of images. Suddenly, the world was flooded with uncanny creations. We saw Google's Deep Dream in 2015, which took ordinary photos and amplified patterns it found within them, resulting in psychedelic, dreamlike landscapes filled with swirling dog faces and fractal eyes. It was bizarre, mesmerizing, and the first time AI-generated art truly went viral. Then came NVIDIA StyleGANs, which mastered the art of the human face, generating an endless stream of non-existent people with terrifying realism. But the true paradigm shift, the moment the technology was placed directly into the hands of the public, was the dawn of text-to-image models. This is where the game changed forever. Companies like OpenAI with DALL-E and independent labs with Midjourney and Stable Diffusion created models that could translate human language into visual art. The prompt became the paintbrush. You no longer needed to be a programmer or a data scientist. You only needed an imagination and the words to describe it. An astronaut riding a horse in a photorealistic style. A cyberpunk city in the style of Van Gogh. It appears. A stained glass window depicting a robot praying. There it is. These models were trained on colossal datasets, billions of image-text pairs scraped from the internet, allowing them to form connections between concepts and aesthetics on a scale no human could ever process. They learned what impressionism looks like, what a dragon is, what cinematic lighting means. They weren't just regurgitating images, they were synthesizing concepts, blending styles, and creating visual metaphors based on the entirety of our digital visual culture. From the simple lines of Aaron to a neural network that can render a photorealistic image from a sentence, the evolution has been breathtaking. The technology had arrived, a tool of seemingly infinite creative potential. But as these incredible images began to flood our feeds, a new set of questions, far more complex and unsettling than the technical challenges, began to surface. So, the machine can create. It can paint, it can draw, it can render our wildest dreams in stunning detail. But the moment a piece of AI art won a state fair art competition, the whispers of unease erupted into a full-throated roar of cultural crisis. The piece, Théâtre d'Opéra Spatial, was a breathtaking, Baroque sci-fi scene, and its creator, Jason Allen, hadn't lifted a paintbrush. He had wielded a prompt. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Artists felt cheated, the public felt confused, and at the heart of the firestorm were a series of questions that strike at the very core of what we believe art to be. Who is the author? Is it the human who writes the text prompt, acting as a director? Is it the AI model itself, the entity that synthesized the pixels? Or is it the army of programmers who built the model and the millions of unnamed artists whose work was used to train it? This question of authorship spirals into an even thornier debate about originality and soul. Critics argue that AI art is the ultimate act of plagiarism, a high-tech collage machine that launders the styles of human artists. These models, after all, learned to create by analyzing a vast trove of existing art, much of it scraped from the internet without the original creator's permission. When you ask an AI to create something in the style of Greg Rutkowski, a popular fantasy artist, the model isn't just inspired, it's drawing upon the statistical patterns of his entire body of work to replicate his aesthetic. For artists who have spent decades honing their unique voice, seeing their style become a mere command in a text box feels like a profound violation. It raises a crucial question. Is it truly creation if it's built entirely on the foundation of what has already been created, without consent or credit? This has led to major legal battles, with companies like Getty Images and groups of artists filing class action lawsuits against AI developers, accusing them of mass copyright infringement. The courts are now grappling with a problem technology has created far faster than our legal frameworks can adapt. Beyond the legalities lies a more philosophical chasm. What is the value of art? For many, it's not just the final image, but the human story behind it, the struggle, the intent, the happy accidents, the years of practice, the emotion poured onto the canvas. Can an algorithm, which has no life experience, no joy, no suffering, truly create something with meaning? Or is it just a sophisticated parrot, an echo chamber reflecting our own culture back at us? When you look at a painting by Frida Kahlo, you see not just brushstrokes, but her pain, her resilience, her identity. When you look at a flawless AI-generated portrait, what do you see? Technical brilliance, certainly, but is there a soul behind the eyes? This debate divides the art world. Some argue that the only thing that matters is the viewer's emotional response to the final piece, regardless of how it was made. Others maintain that the process and the artist's intent are inseparable from the work itself, and that removing the human element strips art of its essential purpose. This tension creates a powerful paradox, the democratization of creation versus the potential devaluation of skill. On one hand, these tools are revolutionary. Suddenly, people who lack the technical drawing skills but possess incredible visual ideas can bring their visions to life. A world builder can now illustrate their fantasy epic. A director can storyboard an entire film. It's an unprecedented explosion of visual expression, breaking down barriers that have existed for centuries. But on the other hand, what does this mean for the livelihood of professional artists? If a company can generate 100 high-quality concept art images for a video game in an afternoon for a few dollars, why would they hire a human concept artist who might take weeks and cost thousands? We're already seeing reports of illustrators and designers losing work to AI-generated assets. The fear is that art could become a content mill, where quantity and speed, driven by algorithms, triumph over the deliberate, skilled, and often slow craft of human creation. The very skills that once defined an artist, brushwork, composition, color theory, could become economically obsolete. We are standing at a crossroads, forced to confront what we value more, the accessibility of creation or the sanctity of human craft. While these debates rage, a third path is emerging from the chaos, one that suggests this isn't a zero-sum game. While the battle lines are being drawn between human artists and artificial intelligence, a far more interesting and productive reality is quietly taking shape in studios and design firms around the world. The conversation is shifting from man-machine to man-machine. This isn't about replacement, it's about collaboration. It's about viewing AI not as an autonomous artist, but as the most powerful and intelligent assistant ever conceived. Think of the revolutionary impact the camera had on painting. It didn't kill it. Portrait painters didn't just vanish. Instead, the camera freed artists from the burden of pure representation. It gave birth to Impressionism, Cubism, and abstract expressionism. Artists began to focus on what the camera captured: emotion, interpretation, and the inner world. AI is poised to be a similar catalyst, a tool that takes over the laborious and repetitive aspects of creation, freeing human artists to focus on what they do best: ideation, curation, and storytelling. Imagine an architect tasked with designing a new sustainable building. Instead of spending weeks sketching a handful of initial concepts, they can prompt an AI with complex parameters: location, materials, energy efficiency, aesthetic style, and receive hundreds of viable architectural models in minutes. The architect's role then shifts from draftsman to visionary curator, selecting the most promising designs, refining them, and imbuing them with the human-centric details that an algorithm could never understand. Or consider a video game developer. They can use AI to generate endless textures for environments, variations of character outfits, or placeholder assets, massively accelerating the prototyping phase. The human artists are then able to pour their time and talent into the hero assets, the key emotional moments, and the overall artistic direction that gives the game its soul. In this model, AI becomes an incredible brainstorming partner, a tireless intern that can explore 1,000 dead-end ideas so the human creator can find the one brilliant path forward. It's about augmenting human creativity, not automating it. This collaborative future also opens the door to entirely new forms of art we are only just beginning to imagine. We could see interactive artworks that change and evolve based on a viewer's emotions, read through a webcam. Imagine a digital painting in a gallery whose mood shifts from joyful to somber depending on the tone of the conversations around it. We could have personalized media, where a story's illustrations are generated in real time to match the reader's own imagination. Think of immersive virtual reality worlds that are not static and pre-built, but are generated and expanded by an AI storyteller in response to the player's actions, creating a truly unique and endless adventure. The canvas is no longer a static rectangle, but a dynamic, responsive, and collaborative space shared between human and machine intelligence. The art of the future might be less about a finished product and more about a continuous creative process. Of course, for this symbiotic future to be equitable and sustainable, we must build it on a foundation of ethical principles. This means developing transparent systems where the use of AI is clearly disclosed. It requires a revolution in data ethics, moving away from a model of indiscriminately scraping the internet to one that uses licensed, ethically sourced datasets where original creators are compensated for their contributions. We need new standards for digital watermarking to distinguish between human and AI-generated content, preventing misinformation and protecting authenticity. The goal is not to stop the technology, that's impossible, but to guide it, to build guardrails that ensure it serves to empower human artists rather than exploit them. It's about creating an ecosystem where AI is a tool for everyone, but one that respects and rewards the human ingenuity that has always been and must always be at the heart of art. This is not the end of creativity. It is a profound and perhaps unsettling evolution. We are the ones who will decide whether this new technology becomes a simple echo of our past or a resonant voice that helps us compose the future.